Hi, my name is Tasnim Faruque, and I'll be continuing the case study rebuttal for the Texas murder done in 1995 by Group 7's presentation. So just to recap this incident, a murder victim was found stabbed 21 times with his hands cut off and later determined to have been relocated from the original murder site. A pollen study was conducted at A&M's forensic department, and it was later determined to find that the victim's clothing had marijuana pollen, alder pollen, and buffalo berry pollen. And even further down the line of this case, there is the possibility of the tie to the Mexican drug cartel, which was later found in Kansas. Now, the technique, methodology, and applications used in this case has only been shown to, or reports have only shown that it was a pollen analysis done. Now, when the body was found in 1995, for months the incident was considered a cold case due to not being able to move anywhere or find any evidence tying the victim to anything. In 1996, the crime scene investigators of this case attended a forensic lecture regarding palynology, and then they decided to take this approach. Since the victim's clothing was already safely maintained after the autopsy had been conducted, it was sent to complete pollen analysis, and the crime scene was later revisited to control samples. Now, to kind of move towards the report aspect, there is very limited information and feasibility of this report in regard to the complete analyses or findings or even like imaging. Ultimately, I believe that what would make this argument better would be to find or to see if there are reports made and whether there was multiple analyses conducted about the pollen analysis. Was it cross-referenced to the findings? For example, there was the two pollens that were found were alder and the berry pollen, which was determined to not have been available or found availably in Texas. Alder pollen is airborne, so it could be a possibility. However, the buffalo uh, flower pollen was found 250 miles above of Texas, and that would have been determined it to be the closer region. However, was that pollen found in that region? Was it analyzed in that region? And was it cross-referenced with a department over there or by anything? Now, for the reliability of identification of pollen, like we mentioned before, it was a pollen analysis that was done. However, the pollen analysis done on the victim's clothing was indicative of finding the marijuana pollen, as well as the other two flower pollens mentioned. However, when the crime scene investigators went back to do analysis of the crime scene, it was many months after the body had been found. Due to that, there must have been changes in seasons, weathers, or other environmental factors that may have taken place during that time being, which yields the probability of differing pollens or spores being present. Ultimately, neither the alder nor the buffalo berry pollen grains were found at that crime scene investigation, and that was evident through the control samples. Meanwhile, the marijuana pollen that was found on the victim's clothing was also deemed as higher concentration than the typical average found in West Texas. None of the pollens were ultimately found in the crime scene's control samples. Due to the pollens that were found, the police started investigating around the Kansas region. And 6 months down the line, it was found that there was a drug cartel ring in Kansas that was dealing with cannabis and cocaine. So, to support the argument, it may have been beneficial if there was information regarding whether the cannabis pollens found in Kansas matched the pollen analysis that was on the victim's body. There wasn't any information about that based off reports that I have seen, nor what Group 7 had presented. So, that would have been some supportive values to this argument. Additionally, it is also critical to see if there was findings regarding the drug cartel that may have tied the victim or may have tied like pollen analysis to the cartel or even like locations that they may have been or that may have been tied to them as in like locations that they frequent. Ultimately, it did seem like the findings and the conclusion for this case was more determinant on um, like the analytical information versus the analytical evidence, because it was more so concluded based off of the victim's ethnicity as well as the violent nature of the body being found. However, it does not seem like, or there was no findings of the analysis done in Kansas, if any of the pollens were found in Kansas, or if there was a relation tied to this body in any way. And these are my resources.